A leader in event education, the Event Leadership Institute offers on-demand video classes, interviews with industry mavericks, and online instructor-led professional development courses taught by industry experts. Visit eventleadershipinstitute.com for more information and to see a schedule of upcoming classes.
Are you a follower?
9, 8,
Okay,
7,
so we're gonna be
Welcome to Gather Geeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Executive Editor Beth Kormanik.
Welcome to Gather Geeks. Hi, David.
Hey, Beth, how you doing today?
Terrific. It is officially fall in New York, and one of the signifiers of fall is always New York Fashion Week.
That's right. Fashion Week is one of the biggest economic drivers in the city and in the country, actually, when you think about it, in terms of the fashion industry.
Absolutely. So in terms of the money that it brings in, but also the global press coverage, everyone is here in New York right now that cares about fashion or that cares about parties and events and all sorts of things. And we had the opportunity to sit down and talk with the people who are essentially running Fashion Week. Catherine Bennett, who is the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Fashion Events for IMG, and Lori DeJong, who is CEO of LDJ Productions, and they are the producers behind New York Fashion Week.
And the attention to detail is as intricate as a beautiful piece of fashion.
Exactly. And we're going to get into the details of how these events are produced, what it means to coordinate that kind of a schedule with more than 500 shows or something insane like that, and hear about the global expansion. So we have a lot that we're about to dig into today.
Not to mention the idea that events are so critical to how they sell fashion, especially on the wholesale level.
Absolutely. And they've also changed in terms of how they need to accommodate the media. For instance, everybody is sitting in the front row with their smartphone these days. And you have to change the way your show looks potentially to accommodate that.
Yeah, it's no longer about here's the fashion show and let's wait till it gets into the stores, because people really react immediately.
Right. So we had just a wide-ranging conversation, and I think that anyone, whether you're interested in fashion or you're just interested in the logistics behind it, will find something useful out of this discussion.
Fantastic.
Welcome to Gather Geeks, where we're recording live from New York's West Village in the Carriage House. We're here with Cat Bennett of IMG and Lori DeJong of LDJ Productions. David and I are so happy to be, Lori, in your turf. This is your venue. And we're here to chat about fashion and events and where that's moving in New York, but also where these events have taken you, Lori. I know you have a lot to talk about with your foundation, but let's just start talking a little bit about.
Can I just say that the entrance coming in was incredible. You come into this townhouse right near Babo, is how you spell Babo?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And right near Babo. Yeah. And you walk in a little bit of a public hallway, and then you go out to this amazing little carriage house in the heart of Greenwich Village. I think there's a lot of these somewhere hidden.
It's special New York City gems. Yeah. So special.
It's like a little speakeasy for events.
A speakeasy for events. And this is your first venture of testing out venues too.
Yeah, and we never actually planned to go down this path, but I walked into this venue and I met Mark, who actually owns the venue, and just fell in love with it. Love it.
Well, none of us seem to go down the path that we think we're going to go down.
That's true. How true.
I think all of us here.
Yes. Here we are.
We thought we were doing this in high school. We were far wrong.
But it's interesting because we're seeing more event production companies have their own venues or have relationships with venues like this. And and that's taken the form of big event halls to more bespoke venues like this one. So how has the experience been so far?
It's been about a month. So far, so good. I mean, our first goal is just to get our clients in the door and get people in the door and really think through and kind of brainstorm, spitball about the different kinds of events that could happen here, which obviously, as you see, it could be really anything. So we're just taking it one day at a time and doing some testing now.
And now you're seeing this from a different perspective. Before you were somebody who booked venues. Now you are trying to book. So what is that? What lessons have you learned
I mean, for
an event perspective?
IMG, our role in Fashion Week is to manage their events. We provide venue management services among some other things. So we actually have a lot of experience with actually managing a venue and kind of the things that you don't really see there behind the scenes, the non-sexy things like power supplies and
people complain when they don't see them.
So we have a lot of experience managing a venue. Even though it seems like it's definitely a vertical for us, and we are so far we're feeling pretty confident and pretty good about it.
One of the things that I see, and that I'd love you to hear a comment, is that venues have become the new town squares in the world, especially with the way media has been so diffused, that these gathering places to create communities become really important.
They have. And it's funny, in fashion, things are sort of cyclical, but we've found over the past few seasons, I think, a return of designers and the industry of wanting to come back to a group sort of collective space, which is interesting because we had a few seasons of everybody wanting to go off and do their own thing and not wanting to be in a space with anybody else and wanting to be spread out and, doing their very own thing in all different parts of the city, and we've seen over the past couple of seasons a return to kind of the collective show space.
Why do you think really that is? I mean, is it like the human stuff that you want to write with your friends?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really people wanting to be back together again in a weird way. I don't think anyone would be able to consciously verbalize that, but it's almost like an emotional response. I think.
Let's dig into that a little bit, because I know that's one of the story threads of Fashion Week is where it has moved through the years. And people remember the tents at Bryant Park, your Lincoln Center, downtown New York most recently. And am I correct that the plan is to move to the Culture Shed, perhaps?
Well, it's a space that we're looking at, which is going to be incredible. It's not going to be ready until 2019, I think now, but the space is going to be amazing.
So
really
what are
an amazing curator for the space, Alex Poots, who's really incredible and someone you guys should have on your program because he's really going to do amazing things there. So
tell us about your needs.
We've done a lot of consulting with them over the past 10 years, really, to help them think about how to build this space in terms of thinking about hosting fashion shows there. So,
what do you need? What are those things? What are you looking for? What does it take for a venue to pull off New York Fashion Week?
Well, there are very specific things in terms of lighting and sound and that stuff that Lori can speak to probably better than I can. But
what is that?
Lighting.
Power needs and lighting
generators
and ceiling height and weight load bearing points in the ceiling.
What about all the technical things that actually impact the attendee experience? That why do you need it that way?
Right. Well, I think for the attendee experience, the most important thing is
pictures.
That picture. Well, pictures, definitely pictures.
So pictures are the Instagram moments and things like that you talk about in all the articles about you.
Yeah,
it's like that gets you. Why does that get you the better picture? And how do you design lighting that allows for great pictures?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a science.
What is the science?
And science
Give us a little bit on that.
Science for a fashion, like lighting for a fashion show is a lot different than lighting for other events, because the picture has to be there's a benchmark, like a global benchmark for quality, and so we have to meet that standard.
What is that global benchmark? How do you describe it? Like, how do you sort of say that it's bigger than it? I mean, it's just to be clear.
I mean, I don't know if I would want. It has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect.
Okay.
Actually, that's true. Any kind of the production standards for fashion are just so much higher than any other industry because it's looked at through a microscope. Especially now with all the cameras. I mean, we're doing like robotic cameras and drones, and everybody walks into that room with a camera. So what used to be like a reach that was much smaller now is a reach to like any event, not just fashion. It's millions. But for fashion, it's also, if you have 3 venues that hold a certain number of people, you have to have the common space. Because the most important thing one of the many important things for a guest experience at any event is to make sure they can get in and out easily without having, or seamlessly without having to cram 10 people into an elevator and spend all day getting up and down an elevator, or just safely and seamlessly getting crowds through multiple venues, and that's always been the most challenging part of doing any kind of multi-venue event.
So set the stage for us in terms of what Fashion Week looks like for everybody. I think all of our listeners are aware of New York Fashion Week, but very few actually get to experience it in person. So what is that experience like today?
Well, it's constantly evolving, which is one of the great things about fashion. But New York Fashion Week specifically is the largest media event that happens in New York City. Happens 2 times a year, September and February. Combined, it has a huge economic impact on the city, close to $1 billion a year. It has tremendous economic impact on hotels, restaurants, taxis, Ubers. I mean, it's really an important event. The city employs close to 8,000 fashion designers alone working in the city. Each season, there are close to 500 fashion shows that happen during each season. So it's really a meaningful piece.
It dwarfs,
of,
dwarfs a lot of the other events. I mean, it's so much bigger.
It's actually a lot, significantly larger than London, Milan, and Paris, which is very surprising.
And other events in the city itself.
Larger than the U.S. Open, the Super Bowl, when the Super Bowl was here. It's really the upfronts, TV upfronts, which you, I'm sure, know a lot about. So it's really an important piece of the city.
And these are, you said 500 a season, 500 shows. How do you manage that calendar?
Well, thankfully, we don't have to do it.
Thankfully, neither one of us.
It's a challenge. I mean, it really is a challenge. But we do the best that we can. Yeah. So, and we work with pros like Lori. So,
is it it's the CFDA that's managing the calendar?
We work with the CFDA, very closely. They manage the official fashion calendar
of who goes when.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like,
and what are some
you need like a PhD to figure it out.
What is the
oh my God.
Like,
I mean,
everybody comes in and expects to be premier.
It's very hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to
think about it. I mean, you have to accommodate press and editors and buyers. I mean, it's tough.
Lori said you started as a social worker. Your skills seem to be more important now.
Social work.
You can be a hostage negotiator.
The social work of life. I always say social work is the art of dealing with difficult people, which is kind of all of our,
Yeah, exactly.
Business.
So the prime spots, is it opening Fashion Week? Is it closing Fashion Week? What's the?
Oh, they're all
people
special.
Think?
Okay. That's like choosing your favorite kid.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
And how has it changed? Like, I know that it's about the picture. Social media has been revolutionary in this, I assume, right? Or
yeah, I mean, historically, Fashion Week is really a trade, an industry event. Mm-hmm. It's really how designers would decide basically what to put into production. They would create a small sample collection, invite key members of the industry, buyers and press from, their department stores, and come and put, show their collection on a runway, and then, people would take orders, and then whatever was ordered would be put into production. You would wait months to see the pictures, and now that's changed dramatically, the way that people,
you can buy right on the scene from the live feeds now, right?
It's kind of shifted everything, which is interesting. So what we're seeing now is a real shift in how people shop and how people buy things and how people produce their collections, and also how people present their collections now, thanks to, now everything is, we live stream our shows, so people can see the shows as they're happening anywhere in the world. So we're finding people creating opportunities now for consumers to be involved in their shows, which is interesting and something that didn't happen a few years ago at all. And finding people doing all kinds of different things and experimenting with how they present their collections, and which is also something that never happened before. So,
how has the experience of live streaming changed what happens in the room? Does it at all?
No. If you're sitting in the room, you don't have any sense of that happening.
But in terms of what data do you have to show? I mean, who's watching this? Are these just fashion fans from around the world, editors who couldn't make it to New York, or what do you know about that, and how has the live stream really
fashion fans,
augmented what you do?
Clients of the designer who can't make it to the show, but also a lot of international clients or buyers, press who used to travel to shows, and companies who don't have the budgets to send people anymore can watch in that way.
Do designers see the live stream as a value?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
Right.
And designers also, will carry the feed on their Facebook pages for their fans. And
so the influencer piece is more important than ever, it sounds like, right? That the people that either are attending or no, they have to be able to do something for you, I guess, right?
Yes.
It's not just buyers anymore, right?
Right, exactly.
So how do you, the new fashion influencers, how are you identifying them? Is it something where you are consciously going after them, where all the brands are?
The brands are.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I don't,
They show up.
Yeah.
They just,
I
there's
think
so
it's
many
sort of
things.
organic, really.
What is it about fashion that's so, it's people live it, breathe it. How do you see it every day? You're involved in it every single day.
It's the one thing that every single person on the planet has to deal with, right? Every day everyone has to get up and get dressed. So, and it means so many different things to so many people. For some, it's a real creative expression of your personality, or it can be so many different things to so many people. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
And Kat, you mentioned the changes in how you see people wanting to come back to the centralized venue after doing their own things in different venues. And you mentioned the see now, buy now trend. Are things still sorting themselves out? Are we still in a state of flux right now? Or what direction do you see
I think what we're seeing now is that designers are realizing that how to show is really becoming a very personalized decision based on what works best for their brand. So you're seeing some designers who have historically always done a large runway show rethinking and doing a smaller presentation that's more intimate, where they can actually invite their clients in and their press in and actually have a dialogue and meet their have conversation about their collection and what they're showing. And then other people who've done a presentation are doing runway shows. So I think what we're seeing is people taking a more personalized approach, which is something that.
Do you think that? Are you seeing that? Are people mixing it up consciously, or they are actually? Is consistency the game plan, or is it mixing it up? It's about fashion, right? Fashion is the fashion of events.
I think it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
Like Kat said, everything, every brand has a specific DNA. And sometimes that changes from season to season, or sometimes it's just a blanket DNA. But it's a hybrid. I never people ask me about fashion. It's a hybrid.
And it's also, we've evolved, as event producers, that now we have so much the capabilities to do so much more too. So we have so many more tools.
What tools are the newest tools that you see?
Laura can speak to this better, but now we have tools to be able for designers to create, original pieces of content that we can distribute digitally around the world. And we have, our architects and Lori's production team, they can build sets that can be transformed into a billion different ways in 10 minutes almost, you know what I mean? So we can have one venue that can have 10 different runway configurations. And
is that the key, Lori? Is that?
Well, I think, what Kat and the IMG team will come to us and they'll ask for as much flexibility as possible, and not only with the size and shape of the room, but with timing as far as load-ins and load-outs, because there's some venues that will have one show a day and there's other venues that have multiple shows a day. So they ask us for flexibility, and it's not just the venues, it's also the common space of people passing. Like if Kat or anyone on our team says to us, like, we're gonna have 1,000 people here and 300 people here and 500 people here, you gotta figure it out. And we have to figure it out, like how it's going to work, like how you can move that many people in and out of a space at the same time, and not let them feel like they're sardines or
well, because everyone has to be special, right?
Everybody, especially in this discussion.
Everybody.
How do you make everybody special? What is your approach? I know that there's a philosophy, but how do you execute that? And does it actually happen? I see a lot of grins.
No, it has to happen.
it's hard. I mean, we find that everybody's a VIP in our event industry, and how do you sort of create scale?
I know with our team, what we communicate is that everybody is a VIP. Everyone, like every single person and that goes with the people that are working the event and the people that are coming to the event. So if you're in the cleaning crew, cleaning the bathrooms, you're a VIP just as much as, any editor coming. So it's the way you treat people.
Right.
And I think everyone on the LVJ and IMG team we work so well together as a team, and people just really genuinely love what they're doing. And
this is an industry where people really love it.
This is a passionate industry. People are
both fashion and events.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think so. You really have to love it because it's kind of a 24/7.
It's a grueling job.
Whenever we interview people, if you want 9 to 5, you're in the wrong place because it doesn't ever happen.
But how does the VIP experience? When I've talked to other organizers, that the presentation actually democratizes that in many cases. You see this incredible experience that you're experiencing. Whichever experience you're experiencing is probably not the right word, but the idea is that when you see something of such artistic venture with the fashion and the lights and the presentation, that makes it special, right? Tell us what you think in terms of what your philosophy of?
It's what I spend most of my life doing, so I'm very passionate about it, and I find it. I know you feel the same way. Every fashion week, it's like every day is just really exciting, and there's never. Not only Fashion Week, it's really all year round. There's never 2 shows that are the same, and there's never 2 days that are the same, and you really have to love the diversity of the day-to-day job, which is never.
But what is it about every event that makes it interesting? I obviously in this business, I love it. How do you make it special each time?
I mean, for us, because we have such a diverse client base, fashion is obviously something that has to be very, very clean and finished, and I think start there. So start with like a beautiful space that's like every seam is finished and every light is perfect. So like start there, and then like that's the benchmark of pretty much every other event that we do.
Yeah.
Because the cameras that we're looking at in any one of those runways or presentation spaces is so precise it's going to pick up anything. So we start there, and I think our other clients have appreciated that. And our vendors, we come in at this, it's at a different level. It's just really a different level. It's a much higher level of production. And so last week we did a robotics conference. We actually did a thought leadership conference, a robotics conference, a hair show, and Women's Wear Daily as a client. So we did their FN footwear show. So even like take what we do for fashion and transfer it to. This event was about bots, robotics. We do a lot of tech.
Tell us about that.
We say to the team, like, it should look like a Fashion Week venue. It should be that finished, and the show should be clean and tight. And we direct all the shows to our not all our fashion shows, but we direct all of our other client shows. So everything's kind of run in that mindset.
And so, how many people were at this robotics show? Is it a large?
There was about 350
people, and you approached it like a fashion show.
Every event we do, we approach that.
Every does that
project,
mean some sort of central moment, like?
Not necessarily.
It's just the way you think about the quality.
It's quality.
It's quality.
Yeah. It's a different level.
It's a completely different level.
Yeah.
And brands that go that route benefit.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think people hire us because of the level of production that we do actually provide, and because of our team just being so good, I think.
They are. Fantastic.
You back me up there. So you don't need to. I mean, that's why people come to us. What we're good at.
What does your team look like? Tell us your team. What is a typical?
Well, there's 17 full-time people.
And what do they do?
And we have a whole department that does the production, like real technical production, and then we have a creative team, and then we have a large group of people that do operations, like the logistics part of every event. And then there's people that do event management, which is more of like the registration lists and all the things that you kind of like.
But the craftsmen, are you doing video mapping and things like that?
Oh yeah, we actually have a in our new office. We're moving to Leroy Street in a couple months, and our new office where we have our own incubator, our own accelerator program, So our clients, especially our corporate clients, are coming to us and they're asking us for like what's next in technology, event technology. So we kind of took that, that like and it's companies like L'Oreal and Yahoo and New York Times, like what's next, like what's cool in the event space, technology space. And we brought in, we have 40 desks for an incubator program. And so we're bringing in like postgraduate students, not all of them post university, but students that are in a program we call Futures. And we're housing them in our office. And all they're doing is developing cool stuff. And we're marketing it to our clients.
That's so interesting. I feel like that's the next trend in production companies. I'm starting to see this where you go in and there's the R&D place where people are literally getting their hands in and building stuff, creating stuff, not relying on.
It's an incubator program, so it's part of LBJ, but it's an incubator program, which is one of the reasons why we're moving, because it's all everyone's saying to us. It's like, what's next? Like you said, buy it on the runway.
Okay.
I know you're going to ask me.
This is the obvious question.
We're in for us. We're playing with something right now with video mapping, and we do a lot of stage shows, like a lot of like 10-minute opening shows for a company and like things like that. So the video mapping has been really interesting to study for me, and watching it evolve over the last few years.
So go a little bit into, you have all this new technology and new things that are happening. Is the storytelling changing, or is still storytelling behind it all?
I think the storytelling isn't changing, but the stories are becoming more accessible and they're becoming more and more interesting and relevant.
And is that what a 10-minute show fashion presentation is about now, or is it?
Whatever
the time.
Fashion. It's always been like the average show is like 10, 12 minutes. Yeah. So fashion's always been about how you take those 10 minutes on the runway and make it, like Kat said, make it work for you for the next 6 months. Now, because fast fashion is a little has changed the market a bit, it's still like the companies that and I know this from the shows that we actually produce, is like the designers that really understand how to take that 12 minutes of content and use it for the next couple of months or however long they need it, are the ones that are really succeeding. And what IMG offers, which is a huge value add, is their whole digital department. It's like the products and I'm sure you've followed them on Instagram, like the product that they come, that no one's doing that.
Well, they're global.
It's so good. It's just so good, and it's such a value add, and there's just nobody else doing that. And
so I want to. Do you have another question?
I was going to ask about social media, actually, Kat. How do you differentiate, or how do you promote IMG and New York Fashion Week when people are hashtagging the show? Like, how do you make sure that your brand is getting promoted as well?
We don't care so much about our brand, to be honest with you. It's more about the designers, and we kind of view ourselves as a tool really for them. And our main goal is really just to be able to service our clients who are the designers and help them really tell their stories. So
how are you measuring that?
By their success, to be honest. So, and then we, another tool that we offer them is social media support and all of those other kinds of tools that we can handle for them on the back end too. So we, this is a service we provide too as part of our overall production package.
And is that something that large brands as well as the small brands are taking advantage of? Because with 500 shows, it's a mix of people who are established and who have global operations and some of these smaller brands who are just getting off the ground that might not have a dedicated social media person.
It's a real mix.
How big is the IMG team? Your team, it's incredible. You're like a global. Every time I try to call you, you're away.
I know. Well, we're somehow attached to every major fashion week around the world. So.
And what is your life like when you do that? You're traveling.
I live on a plane.
You live on a plane.
Jet lag.
You have a lot of miles, I assume.
I do.
Which don't really matter.
Which doesn't matter because I know exactly. But it's exciting, and it's interesting to see how each fashion week in each city has kind of its own flavor, sort of, which is it's a cool way to think. But our team in New York, we have about 15 people, which is kind of our largest which is really not that many people for what we do, to be honest.
$1 billion worth of economic impact.
Exactly, I know. So, and we have about 35 people globally. Yeah.
And they're all running around like you to different places, or certain people are staying.
Yeah, we have hubs, New York being the largest, and then we have a team in, a couple of people spread everywhere, and then a larger team in Berlin and one in Sydney. So.
Great. Well, I am a big believer in this concept called social physics. Have you heard of this guy, Alex Pentland, who wrote a book called Social Physics, How Ideas Flow? It's kind of brilliant. But he says that the perfect team, you have the actual meetings and things like that, and then you go out for exploration and you bring your explorations back to your world, and it changes the energy in the room.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about this, your explorations. Can you talk a little bit about your nonprofit? Because I think it has a big impact on what you do, and you don't even probably, whether you realize it or not, it brings energy into the room that is pretty incredible. We'll talk about your project.
I mean, I think so. Our foundation is a huge part of our culture, not just at LDJ, but it's the vendors we work with and our clients. Everyone's been very, very supportive of the whole initiative. It started organically. It really did. I love to mentor, and I was mentoring a woman who happened to be from Rwanda and in East Africa, and became friends with her and went there and saw that what was happening in East Africa, which was a huge amount of development, and Rwanda specifically is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So they said, we just started talking, and I started kind of giving them some facts about Fashion Week that we just spoke about, being the biggest event in the world and almost $1 billion of economic impact for the city. So I just thought to myself, well, if Fashion Week in New York can provide that much of an impact in our city, like just take that and transfer it to a developing nation and an emerging market. So we helped start the first Fashion Week in Kigali, Rwanda, and then just took on a life of its own from there. And now we're working in 5 different countries in Africa, not only on the urban platforms, like helping them start and really sharing best practices of their Fashion Weeks, but we're also working in a lot of the rural communities too. And I think that everybody in the office embraced it right away. But then when we started talking about it to Kat and some of our other clients, and just people have been really, really supportive. And we have what we call Paper Fig Fellows who come over and work with us during Fashion Week inside of our venues.
Why Paper Fig? Why is it
called the Paper Fig Foundation?
It's because I collect shells.
Oh, so this goes, okay.
Yes, and I live out in Sag Harbor, Long Island. It's a shell that's native to the area. So I have an outdoor shower filled with paper fig shells. But it also, like, paper fig is in, I don't know if you've studied Buddhism and all, but paper fig, a fig tree is the tree that the Buddha sat under to achieve enlightenment. It's a Bodhi tree.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a side meaning to it, but it really was the shell. So two of them get picked each season, and they come and they basically follow people that work Fashion Week, and they learn best practices, which is our whole concept. We don't do it.
Are they designers that are these?
No,
it's what about the light bulb that goes off in the person that wants to showcase their fashion? They're probably just not a big fashion industry in these places.
No,
I mean, you're stimulating
part of what we're doing is trying to help innovate the industry there.
And because of what we said earlier with Kat, there's something about fashion that brings us together.
And it's really like this. If you look at it, like, they can't. Some of them have come over and they just can't even imagine the scale. So just to see the scale and bringing back like that kind of like that attitude of like, this could be us.
Right.
And they do. And part of the requirement is that they go back and they teach their best practices that they've learned here to their region.
And what does a first year program look like?
For the
fashion show. No, for an actual, when you actually launch a show.
I mean, it's. I mean, we were the biggest event in Rwanda. This was several years ago now, but it was a huge community event. And I talk about bringing people together. Like, this is just huge for a lot of these countries and really exciting. And then in the East African region itself, they're going through an initiative right now, which is part of the UN initiatives, where they're banning secondhand clothing. So it's crucial that there's an industry, because...
What do you mean banning secondhand clothing?
Now a lot of the clothing there is brought in secondhand and then resold. So the industry is kind of based on this secondhand clothing kind of concept.
So rather than making it themselves.
Right, exactly. So, but in order to make it themselves, there's a, the work that needs to happen at the policy level is happening, the import-export taxes. But what's not happening is that there's not a lot of schools or fashion schools in these areas. So we're training in the rural communities, we're training girls that drop out of school, which a lot of them do for one reason or another in the very rural communities when they become 13, 14. So like those girls those are the girls that we're trying to impact, keep them off the streets. Sometimes they're at risk of early marriage or the sex slave industry trade or just extreme poverty. So we're trying to take those girls, teach them a skill, and then use them, to help feed the industry that doesn't have enough expert trained tailors and pattern makers. So we do these master classes not only in pattern making but in business skills and social media
and the light bulb goes off pretty intensely because they get it and they appreciate because they wear clothing every day and they're just like us.
Yeah. And there's some great talent.
I know.
Have you brought any talent to Fashion Week here in New York?
Yeah. And we've brought it. Yeah.
There's some very happy smiles going on here.
Yeah, we've brought a lot of people over. I mean, ideally, we would like to at some point do an African collective show here in New York, but we're not really there yet. So
we're close, though.
Yeah.
It's like what Paul Simon did for music.
Yeah, I know. That was such a. I saw that in Central Park.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves.
That was a good one.
Yes.
That's nice full circle coming back.
I think so. It's. I think especially right now in our country, it's kind of fractured. You can't deny that. There's a lot of people are looking for some sort of purpose, and I had always wanted LDJ to have a purpose-driven initiative, and so this kind of happened organically. But now, people are really looking for some sort of purpose, and we've gotten a lot of support because of that reason, and I think the industry itself, fashion anyway, and our clients have really embraced it, which is
even
great.
Each designer, when we talk about inspiration, they're finding their inspiration somewhere.
Yep.
And you're providing inspiration to your business in ways that help everybody.
And it's been fun for the New York people to go to Africa with us too. I mean, that's really creates an experience, and a lot of almost all of our vendors that actually produce New York Fashion Week, the lighting, sound, video, almost all of them have come to Africa.
Wow.
Right.
And IMG is supporting it in ways. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And
so we got to get Kat there next.
Oh my God.
And Gracie.
I know. I haven't been there yet.
Oh, well, she can just drop off on one of the planes. She's always in the neighborhood somewhere on the way to someplace.
It's fun.
So how do people get involved in the Paper Fig Foundation? Let's talk this thing big time. What's the URL?
I mean, paperfigfoundation.org.
Yeah, Paperfig Foundation.
You can find it through LDJ.
LDJ. How do we find you?
You can find it through our website, ldjproductions.com, but also Paperfig Foundation.
Do you have a Twitter handle or anything like that people can
it's actually, we're big on Instagram. So it's LDJ Prod NYC and Paperfig Foundation and LDJ Lori. So LDJ Lori is my personal one, but we market a lot of our work on Instagram. Not as much on Twitter and Facebook.
Kat, how do people find out how do people find you if they can't travel around the world and see you in a plane?
Well, here in New York, nyfw.com. Probably the best place.
I have one question that you brought up, which I want to add. You talked about is the social network Instagram that is the most important for you guys right now?
No, I don't think so in fashion. I think right now it's Snapchat.
Oh, Snapchat.
I'm seeing so much happening in Snapchat. But Instagram, I mean, people are
We're finding in the event world, Instagram seems to be taking off like a shot, right? Are you seeing that, Beth?
Yeah, I'd say for a while now. But, looking at what we do at BizBash, it's cross-posting, making sure we hit all of our channels. It feels like you do have to be everywhere at once.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the Gather Geeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter at GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of Gather Geeks. Until then, gather on. Invest in yourself and your staff with self-paced online event education designed to fit into your busy schedule. Subscribe to the Event Leadership Institute for only $25 per month and gain access to an extensive on-demand video library of classes, as well as interviews with industry leaders. Best of all, you can watch classes in small pieces or all at once. For more information, visit eventleadershipinstitute.com.